You have a 160 IQ, top 0.003% of the population. And at 32, you have no close friends. Or just like William James Sidis, who could read at 18 months. Entered Harvard at age 11. Newspapers called him the smartest man who ever lived. By his 20s, he was working as a clerk, hiding from everyone who knew his name. He died alone at 46. And the strange thing? His story isn't unusual. It's almost predictable, because high IQ doesn't mean high life. And if you've ever felt like your brain was more curse than gift, there's a reason for that. Let's start with something you've probably experienced, but never named. You're in a conversation. You make a reference, maybe historical, maybe a connection between two ideas that felt obvious to you. The room goes quiet. Nobody got it, so you try to explain. But now you sound condescending, or you stay quiet, and people assume you're cold, arrogant, and uninterested. There's actually research on this. Psychologist Leta Hollingworth found that meaningful connection happens within about a 30-point IQ range. Beyond that gap, conversations start to feel like you're speaking different languages. So if your IQ is 140, your natural communication range starts at 110. That's already above average, which means most people you meet, they fall outside your window. And you learn this early, so you start to mask. You laugh a little too late at jokes you saw coming. You pretend not to know things. You perform normal. And that performance, day after day, year after year, it becomes exhausting. It's not arrogance. It's loneliness dressed up as intelligence. But the isolation isn't even the worst part. The worst part is what happens inside your own head. Because your brain doesn't have an off switch. A simple decision, what to eat, which route to take, how to reply to a text, becomes a branching flowchart. You're optimizing for variables nobody else would consider. And by the time you decide, the moment has passed. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis. But that's just the surface. The deeper problem? Your pattern recognition is too good. You see problems before they exist. You predict failures before you start. You notice the micro-expression that means someone's upset, and you've already mapped 7 reasons why before they've said a word. Your brain is running simulations constantly, and most of them are threat assessments. That's anticipatory anxiety. The ability to generate fear for things that haven't even happened yet. So you're not just living in the present. You're also living in 12 possible futures, most of them worst-case scenarios. And over time, that creates a specific kind of exhaustion. Not physical, mental. The fatigue of a mind that won't stop computing. Now layer something else on top of that. You were probably identified as gifted when you were young. Teachers praised you. Parents expected greatness. You were told you were special. And somewhere along the way, average became unacceptable. Not to others, to you. Because when your identity is built on being the smart one, every mistake feels like an identity crisis. You don't just fail a test. You fail at being you. So you start avoiding challenges. Not because you're lazy, but because struggling threatens the only story you know how to tell about yourself. Carol Dweck's research calls this a fixed mindset, and high IQ individuals fall into it more often than anyone else. Meanwhile, the people around you assume you have it all figured out. They come to you with their problems, expecting instant solutions. They lean on you because you're the smart one. But who do you go to? When you're struggling, financially, emotionally, mentally, who believes you? But you're so smart. How could you be stressed about that? As if intelligence were a vaccine against being human. This bleeds into relationships, too. You want deep intellectual connection. That's not shallow, it's a real need. You want someone who can keep up, challenge you, understand the way your mind works. But there's a paradox here. Research from the University of Western Ontario found that high intelligence can actually reduce romantic attraction. Past a certain point, being too smart becomes intimidating, or alienating, or just hard to relate to. So the partners who interest you often pull away. And the ones who pursue you? Sometimes they can't meet you where you live. And even when you do find someone who fits, your brain complicates it. You analyze their behavior. You notice patterns. You project trajectories. You see the incompatibilities forming before they become problems. Sometimes that's useful. But sometimes you're just predicting endings that don't have to happen. You sabotage the connection before it can hurt you, because you already saw how it might end. And you call that being realistic. But really, it's just loneliness protecting itself. And then there's the weight that almost nobody talks about. The existential kind. When you can deconstruct any system, meaning, purpose, success, even your own emotions, where do you land? You understand that career success is mostly arbitrary. Social status is constructed. Your motivations are neurochemistry. Your beliefs are pattern matched from experience. And once you've seen behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. This is what psychologists call existential depression. It's more common in high IQ individuals because they confront mortality and meaninglessness earlier, and with more precision. You're not sad about something. You're sad about everything. Or maybe worse, you're not sad at all. You're just empty, clear-eyed and hollow. The philosopher's burden. The more clearly you see, the heavier the truth becomes. So, is there a way out of this? Actually, yes. But it starts with something uncomfortable. You have to stop using your intelligence as an identity. Because that's the trap. When being smart is who you are, every struggle feels like a contradiction. But intelligence isn't who you are. It's just a tool you have. And tools can be rebalanced. The same pattern recognition that generates anxiety, it can be redirected toward building solutions. The same depth that creates loneliness, it can produce work that actually connects with people. The missing skills, emotional regulation, social calibration, the wisdom to stop thinking when thinking isn't helping, these aren't fixed traits. They can be developed. Studies show emotional intelligence can be trained. Connection can be practiced. Purpose isn't discovered. It's designed. Your high IQ doesn't have to be a prison, but you have to stop expecting it to make life easier. It doesn't. It makes life more complex. And complexity, when you learn to navigate it instead of drown in it, can become the exact thing that sets you apart. Not the curse you carry, the advantage you choose.